Hi there, I'm Chantelle Rodgers. Welcome to my podcast. I'm calling this podcast Expect Miracles. Because that's really what I want us to step into is that energy of expecting miracles, of expecting life to work out. So, I'm going to talk about miracles, I'm going to talk about God, and I'm probably going to say fuck a lot. So if either of those things bother you, scroll away. But if you're ready to open your mind and expand your heart and really do the work to see miracles in your life, then I urge you to stay. Okay, so today is day 2 of this podcast, and the first day I spent a lot of time just talking about what I believe miracles are, how they work, and I don't want to keep repeating myself. So basically, what I've done throughout the years, I didn't realize I was going to be doing this. But I just started writing books. The first book that I wrote was in 2020. I had gone through my first cancer journey, and I talked about that on Monday's show. So if you want to watch that, you can go ahead and do so. But what I didn't share is that when I finished my cancer treatments, I rang the bell at the clinic, meaning my cancer treatments were done. Um, and that sounds like such a celebration, but it actually didn't feel like a celebration because that was the point that I actually started to realize that I had a lot of work to do, like a lot of emotional and mental healing that I had to do. And like I said on Monday's show, I really truly believe that God planted me in that position to have chemo, to have to be that sick in order to become the person that I am today. I actually really am starting to believe that everything that happens is happening for us. In our physical bodies and our physical minds, it's hard sometimes to comprehend that, to be able to really feel that, like to really feel that that's true. But that's why we do this work, because to me, when we are in that space where we're aligned with the divine, where I believe life begins, that is truly when we start to have these embodiments, these experiences of holy shit, everything is working out for us. As crazy as everything looks, and as corrupt as everything looks, and as scary as things can be, it's still all happening for a reason. Do we have to agree with it? No. Do we have to like it? No. But the point of this is when you really start to know that there is a divine plan, a divine purpose, a divine mother, a divine father, whatever you call it, that's when you start to trust more and worry less. And to me, that's what we call faith, is faith that things are working out. And so when I rang the bell at the cancer clinic, I had already started to recognize that I had a lot of addictive patterns that needed to be healed. And, when I rang the bell, that also meant no more doctors, no more nurses. Nobody else is checking up on you because your life is supposed to be normal again now. You become very lonely and you are very alone at this point, or I was anyway. And I was diagnosed with severe depression and severe anxiety at that time. And I had been, battling mental health issues my whole adult life. And this time when I talked to my doctor, I said, it's time for me to figure out where this is coming from and do the work to heal it. And he agreed with me. And so I didn't get the medication that I normally would go on. And the reason that I wasn't on medication was because during my chemo treatments or before my chemo treatments, they took me off my antidepressant because it reacted with the chemo in some way. So they tried to put me on something else and I didn't like it and I just stopped taking it. I'm not saying that's the right way to do things, but that's how I did things. Um, and so I just knew. I just knew. And that was where I would say my journey got the hardest. Facing cancer is something like you have doctors telling you what to do, you have nurses telling you what to do. I had a team of holistic, people also working with me. I was working on myself because I was an intuitive healer. But when it's severe depression and severe anxiety, and you are consumed by these voices that are daring you, tempting you to take your own life, that's when shit gets real. Um, that's when shit gets real. And that's when I realized that it was time to do my work. Otherwise, um, I just like at the time, I wrote this in my book, the very first book that I wrote. I talked about this because I it got to a point where I didn't think that I could um, stop myself from taking my own life. And so I actually decided that I needed to check into a mental hospital. I didn't know what kind of mental hospital we had here, but I just knew that I had to go to the hospital and be committed because I didn't think, like I said, I could stop myself from taking my own life. Anyone who's ever been in that position, that's a scary fucking place to be, where your mind is working so against you, and all you hear are these voices from your past, from people in your past that have told you that you're weak and pathetic. When you hear that often enough, when you hear that often enough, you start to believe it. And it's a very, very interesting time to be alive because I feel like everybody, not everybody, lots of people are talking about trauma right now. Lots of people are diving into healing trauma. And that is everything that I'm doing right now is to help people get to the other side of the fuckery in their lives. And to me, the fuckery is the trauma that we're hanging on to. And we hang on to it subconsciously, meaning we don't know. We don't know that we still believe that we're weak and pathetic because that's what somebody told us for so many years. We don't know that we're good enough because we were told that we weren't or shown that we weren't. And so I've dealt with this and I'm healing from it. And that is why I find it so important to help others heal because I know how it feels to leave a toxic marriage. I know how it feels to be on the floor praying to die because that person um, threatens to take your children away from you and proceeds to torture you in many different ways, mentally and emotionally. Do they know they're doing it? Not sure. It's not my job to understand why assholes are assholes. Um, but what I'm here to do is to help you know that you are good enough and to help you know that no matter what somebody told you from their pathetic, no, I'm not going to call, I'm working through this shit myself. So I still get angry. Um, hurt people, but, and hurt people allow themselves to be hurt by hurt people. But I also classify people in different ways now. I classify them as the assholes who want to hurt us and harm us because they're too cowardly to do their work, to heal. But I want to be the person, or I am the person. I am the person that has and will do everything humanly possible to love myself as much as I possibly can in this lifetime, and to give back as much as I possibly can in this lifetime, to heal my own trauma, my own wounds, and to help others do the same. Because I know how it feels to be, like I said, laying on the kitchen floor praying to die because you believe the stories that this person tells you that they're going to take your children away from you. You believe that you're weak and pathetic because they've told you that so many fucking times. You believe that you're a piece of shit because that is what you were shown for years and years and years. So I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you heal as I continue to heal, because it is all fuckery. To me, fuckery is the things that we believe about ourselves, about life, about the world, about others, because of what we've been shown and what we've heard. And like I said, it's repetition and influence. So the more often you hear it, the more you will believe it. The more influential that person was in your life, like a parent, like a pastor, like a teacher, like a husband or wife, the more you were taught to trust that person, the more you internalize what they told you about yourself. And so, like I said, then there's a point in life where you're like, fuck this. Fuck this. I am not going to limit the rest of my life because of what somebody who doesn't have the courage to heal did to me. And so, this is what we're doing together. And so, this is what I recognized at the time when I was checking myself into the mental hospital is I wanted to save myself from taking my own life. But like I said, I didn't think I could do it on my own. And so, like I said, this is in my book, On Earth as It Is in Heaven, available on Amazon. You can go to my website, healwithme.ca. That's where all my books are. I sat down on the couch and I had my bag packed. And I was crying so hard because I believed that if I checked myself into the mental hospital, the person who told me he was going to take my kids away from me was now going to do that. So I was sitting with the fact that I was such a failure as a mom that I was probably going to lose my kids because I couldn't get my shit together. I didn't believe that I could stop myself from taking my own life. And that to me was a failure. And so as I cried and I cried and I cried, I heard those voices telling me my kids were better off if I was dead, that I was a, piece of shit, pathetic, all of these things were showing up. And they were very angry, very loud, very mean voices in my head. And then this tiny little voice spoke up. And what this tiny little voice said was, there's another way. And as soon as I heard that, I thought, fuck me. There is, but this is the hard way. This is going to be the hard way because I knew that voice was telling me that it was time to do my work. And I committed that day that I was going to do abso-fucking-lutely everything humanly possible to heal from this bullshit that was holding me back and making me afraid that I couldn't even stop myself from taking my own life. So I committed to do the work. So instead of driving to the mental hospital, what I actually did was I drove to a different city and checked myself into a hotel. I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 days. And this was over, I ended up going for dinner on New Year's Eve by myself. So it was very, very cold, like one of the coldest weeks I remember having. But what I decided was I was going to journal every day. I was going to go and spend time in nature every single day. I was going to get up and get my ass in the tub every single morning, first thing, and do at least an hour of meditation. And another part of this also was that I got this voice or this download to listen to the audiobook Conversations with God. And so I downloaded that before I left my house and I listened to it on the way to the hotel. And I kept listening to that book, and then I bought the next versions and the next versions of it, and that book changed my life because on Monday I shared that when I rang the bell at the cancer clinic, I also left the church because I had been hearing things that I did not agree with. I've never believed that there was a devil. I never believed that God punishes us or throws us in hell. Um, and so that book was so refreshing because everything that I had believed God to be through the years is what he was telling me. And that book is also read like it's an audio, or the audiobook is the version that I read or listened to, but it's also read by a man and a woman. And I have seen and visualized and felt God as a divine mother and a divine father for years. And so that in itself was so refreshing because why would God be a mother and not, or a father and not a mother? That's never made sense to me. So anyway, that just helped my heart know that what I've been visualizing and feeling these years was something that other people are also visualizing and experiencing. So, yeah, I did my fucking work and I'm still doing it. I'm still doing it every day. I've meditated for at least an hour. I journal. Um, I follow those voices of God. I follow what my heart tells me to do, even though it seems crazy sometimes. I always listen to my heart. Is it easy? Not always. Um, to the point where sometimes I really royally fucking hate it. But I know the different feelings. I know when it's a pattern. No, we sometimes know the different feelings. Sometimes we know if it's a pattern, meaning it's our subconscious fears, or if it's a voice coming from within, which is our connection to the divine. But here's the thing that I've been recognizing because I've been on this healing journey for like 19 years now. This was all happening. This was the end of 2018, is what I'm talking about right now. That was my first cancer journey. So, okay, I guess I'll give a little spoiler alert. I ended up um I ended up actually healing my severe depression and severe anxiety. It took about a year, and it was like a year and a month, I think. So about 13 months or so, but I healed it. Like I spent time every day in nature. I actually ended up moving to a tiny little cabin in the middle of the woods. Um because I was so financially strapped, I had to sell my house because I was in credit card debt already from being sick. But that decision saved my life. That decision saved my life because I had equity in my home that I could live off of, which meant my number one priority was healing myself. And that's what I did. And so I did. I healed severe depression and severe anxiety, which was an absolute fucking miracle because the next year I was diagnosed with a way worse cancer. And had I not made the decisions that seemed really crazy to everyone around me. Everybody around me was so mad at me for selling my house, and they really thought that I was such a failure as a mom by doing that. Um, but you know, the weird thing is nobody asked. Nobody asked me like, "Are you okay? Like it seems kind of crazy that you're selling your house. Why are you doing this?" Nobody asked. Everyone just assumed that I was crazy, and I wasn't. I was broken. I was so broken. Um, so I did what I had to do to survive. I did what I had to do for myself, and I did what I had to do for my kids. And now looking back, it was the best fucking thing I could have ever done. Because knowing that I was so close to committing suicide after my first cancer journey, had I not healed, there's no way I could have gone through what I had to go through, 16 more rounds of chemo, double mastectomy, another surgery. Then my mom died. There's no way I could have done that. So, I'm just healing as I do this because I am continuing to tell myself that I did the right thing. Because I still have people in my life that are very um not on my side. Let's put it that way. People that really want to tear me down, especially one person. Um so now I've hired a lawyer and I'm going to deal with this motherfucker for once and for all because I've always been too afraid of him. And shit's going to get done. Finally. So I am going to keep doing this podcast for myself and for you because I feel like there's so many people out there that are struggling in so many different ways, and we need to come together because life is too fucking short. Like I was so excited I've been working so hard on this project. I'm launching a new business, and the first part of my business that I'm launching is giving back. And I'm going to be doing this podcast. I'm going to be doing a free public event in September. I'll be doing them every month. And I'm going to be putting displays up in businesses with these beautiful cards of encouragement that people can take. I'm going to see if I can put them up at the cancer clinics. So my business, the very first part is not going to be about me making money. It's going to be me giving back because every time I sat in that chemo chair, all I could think of is, how can I help these people know that it's going to be okay, even if it isn't? Because it doesn't always work out. I say expect miracles. It doesn't mean that they're always going to show up the way we want them to. But it doesn't also mean that that's not a miracle in itself. The things that happened in my life that were the hardest, I look back now and they were miracles. My mom dying is definitely the hardest thing I've dealt with. But her dying meant she's never going to get cancer and be in a home or be crippled and old. She was 67 when she died suddenly. She wasn't sick. Nobody expected it. And she always said she wanted to die suddenly. And she did. So that is a miracle for my mom. And it took me a while to get to the place where I can say that and mean it. But it was a miracle for her. So I want to do this work together so that we're healing what is holding us back from living this incredible life. And like I said, I've been working so hard on this project, and I finally had some time. Like just 2 days ago, I ended up finishing the project, and I get to now send it to the printer today. And so I was going to take the next couple days, the next week, I wanted to be like kind of holidays, like days off where I could go to the lake, go kayaking, spend time outside. The weather hasn't been great this summer, so it's looking really nice. And I was so excited about that. And, interestingly enough, now I start getting these letters from this lawyer, um, from this person in my life that has been an absolute asshole for so many years. And now I have to deal with his fucking bullshit. So, record scratch. But you know what? Like I said, I've got myself a lawyer, and I'll be meeting soon with them, and I will be dealing with this. So, here's the thing, here's me speaking this out in real time. Because what I tell people all the time is what we need to do is heal no matter what happens. Like, here's my book, The Other Side of Fuckery. Heal What's Holding You Back. A workbook for women wanting to uncover life's miracles. I actually changed the cover a little bit. I'm going to pick up the new version today. This is a color workbook and it's so freaking perfect. We're going to use it. Everything that I do, we're going to use this workbook because it is literally start to finish how we heal our trauma. Not like healing our trauma is a one and done thing. I believe it's a lifelong process. But I definitely feel like I have reverse engineered trauma, addictions, whatever it is, because it all goes back to trauma and our core wounds that we subconsciously believe without even knowing it. I actually forget what I was talking about. Oh, yeah. So, anyway, I really wanted to enjoy the rest of summer. And then I had got these lawyer letters and shit that I have to fucking deal with because somebody chose to torture me financially for the last 10 years. And now he's being held accountable. And so now he's in a real panic for me to do what he wants me to do so that he doesn't get punished by the government for this. So, um, whatever. Whatever. I have so much to say about this, but I'm getting to this place in my heart where I don't fucking care anymore because it's not my problem. I just want this dealt with so that I can go on with my life. Um, so here's the thing. Um, Life is very uh, chaotic sometimes, maybe often. And what happens is our trauma gets triggered. So I'm just going to move my legs because they're always so sore. Um, so trauma comes from the stories that we believe to be true about the things that happened to us. So it's the stories that we told ourselves about what was happening, and usually what we told ourselves is it's our fault, right? Or what the other person was telling us or showing us, we believe that that's true. So we believe that we're not good enough. We believe that we need to work so hard to get someone to love us, and yet they never do. So we tell ourselves stories about that. Um And then we subconsciously believe that for the rest of our lives. And then our subconscious minds continue to repeat that to us. And we don't know what's happening until we do. And that's why I want to start talking about this and screaming it from the motherfucking rooftops because we need to know what's happening. We need to know, like I said, those voices that were tempting me to take my own life were coming from how assholes had treated me through my lifetime. And yet I'm being tempted to take my own life because of what somebody else told me, what somebody was saying and showing me as they were hurting and harming me. And it's time to free ourselves from that. That's why I say free yourself from fuckery. Because why are we allowing our lives to be ruined because someone hurt us and harmed us? That is not fair. And that's why yesterday I was talking about forgiveness. Don't be fucking worried about forgiving people. Worry about holding them accountable. And this doesn't mean that they're ever going to either go to jail or be punished, or take responsibility, because most of these people are narcissists, and they will continue to blame you and others because that is how cowardly they are. That is how hurt and traumatized they were. They are using this as a protection, but they're hurting and harming others in order to protect themselves, which is not okay. But that's what happened to them as they were children. So there is a level of compassion here. But like I said, what I continued to do through the years is forgive. Oh, I forgive him. It's okay. No, I was scared of him. So I didn't want to face it. I didn't want to face what he had done to me because I didn't want to face the fact that I stayed with this person for so many years when he was so horrible. I didn't want to face the fact that I never stood up to him, never held him accountable, never fought, never argued, never told him to go fuck himself, never told him he was an asshole. Um, so I kept saying I forgave him because then I didn't have to face it. That's why I don't feel forgiveness is such a great thing. I think what we have to do, like I said, first of all, is see that these people are wrong, and see the truth about how we were treated and how we were hurt and how we were harmed. And when we get to a certain level of love in our hearts, we just let it go. We don't have to actively say we forgive people. I don't know. And I could be wrong. Like I said yesterday, um, in a couple months, I might be like, oh, fuck, I was totally wrong about that. We should be forgiving people. If that happens, I'll let you know. But right now, I think it's way more important to hold people that are hurting us and harming us accountable and dealing with it, even though it's not fun. Okay, so I've been spending a lot of time talking about trauma. I've now written books. This is book number 13. This is the best out of all of them. I would, that's what I say anyway. Um, because it's a color workbook for you to use to heal your trauma. The beginning of the book, I talk about fuckery and what I mean by that. I talk about trauma and what I mean by that. I talk about miracles and what I mean by that. So there is, I don't know, a chapter or so in the book where I speak about all of these things so it makes sense. So you can buy the book and read it. But also, what I want to do every day now is I want to actually do the work. I've been talking about it at length. I want to do the work together now. So that's what we're going to do in this podcast. That's what we're going to do at my public events. That's what I'm going to do during my Zoom calls. If you look on my website, I have Zoom group memberships where we get together once a week and we do this work live. I also have a $33 a month membership where I'm going to do a video every week and put it up. I'm going to be doing healing circles. Everything I do is going to be about healing your trauma so that you can uncover life's miracles. I don't know what your miracles are. You're not going to know what your miracles are. You've probably had a feeling throughout your life what your divine destiny is, and you get to step into that, but you're not going to step into that until you believe you deserve it. So that's what we're going to do together. So I have the book, the workbook that we get to use, and also what I made. I love decks now. I'm always working on healing decks. This is a deck of 8 cards. So on the front of the card, it talks about what we want to do in order to heal this part of our trauma. On the back is actually a story that is written to that part of you that believes that there is something wrong with her. This is a workbook for women. I don't understand men's brains. To be honest, I've been abused by so many men. I'm not interested in healing them right now because I don't understand them. I really don't. I know that there are good men out there. I just haven't met them. So I'm focusing on working with women. I shouldn't say that. I'm sure I've met some good men. I just haven't dated or married them. Um, okay, so I'm just trying to think if there's something I forgot. I don't think so. So anyway, these are going to be available for purchase on my website. These are going to get printed today. The Other Side of Fuckery, the workbook and the actual book that I wrote, it was a story it was a book I was writing as I was healing a lot of my own fuckery and facing a lot of things that I was always too afraid to face. Those are on my website and you can get those on Amazon. Like I said, I will have them at my public events, my healing circles, everything that I do also. So, what we're going to do is we're going to choose a card every time we do this. And that card is going to tell us the level of trauma. I don't like the word level. The piece of trauma that we're going to work with, the category of trauma. I don't know. I have to think of a better word for that. Okay, so the one that's showing up, jeez, the one that's showing up today is about raising our value and aligning with freedom. Okay, so this is about connecting to the divine truth, speaking truth, seeing truth, being vulnerable, and being authentic. So, what I've done through the last 19 years is really look at how we act, how we think, why we act that way, why we think that way. And through everything that I've done, going to church, meditation workshops, energy medicine workshops, like all of the stuff and a shit ton of meditation, connecting with the divine, really being led by the mother and father, and getting these visions of how this all works. And every day I journal and I draw these visions that I see and I write. And now it's like it's all coming together. And what I saw the other day was this vision of like walking through this smoke. Like it was red and yellow smoke. And I couldn't see anything. But the interesting thing was, I could hear these voices and I had these feelings, and there were thoughts showing up. And what I recognized was that was showing me our journey from fuckery to the other side of it. So, this to me, again, fuckery is what we believe about our trauma, right? So, what happens is we get triggered. Somebody says something, somebody does something, and that part of us that has not healed yet starts to erupt. So we hear the voices like, oh my God, you're not good enough, or you need to do whatever you can to make this person like you, or whatever it is. It's subconscious, so we don't know what's happening. But this is why I meditate for an hour every day. I put my hand on my heart. I feel all the emotions that show up. I notice all the thoughts that are coming up. And what I started to do was align with the divine every day. And that to me it's something different all the time. So to me, we see the divine in different ways. It's a mother and father energy sometimes. It's divine masculine, divine feminine sometimes. It's inner child sometimes. It's the warrior within sometimes. It really depends on what you need at the moment. That's how the guides show up. Some people call them angels, some people see angels. For me, it's more of a guide. And everybody's going to be different. So if you see angels and you love angels, then connect to your angels. But like I said, for me, it's more guides. And so I tune into that. Now, what we tend to do is we're focusing on our past, we're focusing on the future, we're focusing on the world, we're focusing on other people, we're focusing on what we think we should be or what we think we need to create or prevent in order to be happy. We're focused on out there. But if we turn toward God, no matter what, and we talk to God about it, suddenly we're fucking healing. We are healing when we're aligned with the divine, when we're connected to God, because God will tell us what to do next. Not only that, if we need to be held, God will hold us. The word heal to me means hold them, encourage them, accept them, and love them. That is what our children need. That is what we needed when we were children. Not everybody's going to get it when they need it. I I made a lot of mistakes as a parent. My parents made a lot of mistakes as parents. We all do. So there are always going to be parts of us that need to be held and encouraged and accepted and loved because they were not when we were children. That is what I feel God does for me. I feel like I'm in the arms of God when I'm afraid. When I'm angry, I bring it to God and I speak it out. Um, and then I feel this strength of this warrior within showing up. Sometimes I'm holding my inner child because there's a part of me that's so sad that I'm the one that has to hold them. It's different all the time. That's why healing seems hard, because you don't write a book and say, do this, and that's the way it is. You allow people to have experiences how they have experiences, and you encourage them. Holy fuck, that's great. Do not believe it's a book or a way, because it isn't. There's something to be said. There's a lot of beauty in the books and the ways, but it's not the only way. And it wasn't meant to be that way. I believe Jesus was here to show us how to connect with God, not to say that we had to. I don't believe that he was here trying to be a savior. Yet we can praise him and love him, but we have to take our power back and connect to God in our own hearts. This is how I believe. I'm not telling you what to do. If you don't like it, then don't listen to what I'm saying, because not everybody's going to like that or resonate with it. But that's my point, is I'm not here to tell you what God is and what to do. I'm here to help you connect to that version of whatever it is for you, to the version of whatever that is for you, so you can heal how it works for you. So the card that we pulled today, like I said, is about surrender and connecting to the divine truth. So I'm going to read what this says. It says, "You're believing you're worthless. That's not true. It never was. You were hurt and harmed, and that is not okay. You were taught to follow what you were told. You never learned to see beyond the lies and punishment. You had to be who they wanted you to be to avoid their torture. This is causing you to focus on the world. When you can't let go of what's happening in the world, you're distracted and divided. Over time, this will cause you to lose hope and feel desperate, or cling to delusional fantasies. It's time to see the truth. It's very painful to see the truth because you realize the lies you have believed. But when you sit with it long enough, you see that everything has been happening for you. This is when the truth sets you free, and you can be you." So there's so much to this, and that's why I'm doing so much of this work. I'm going to be setting up healing circles. Um, and like, these Zoom groups are going to be 90 minutes, so that we're just dedicated to working through these levels of trauma every week. There's so much to this. And one of the biggest things is, what happens when we're stuck in these beliefs. So this one is talking about the feeling that we're worthless. Well, when we're worthless, what we do is we try to get things from the world. So we try to get things from people in an act of desperation. We feel desperate, but we also have this feeling of despair. I don't look at anything that's going on in the world because it's all like nothing is going to make you feel good about yourself that's on the news. Like, it's not going to be helpful. I'm not going to say too much about it because I really don't care. But what I do tell people is don't watch it. Like, don't watch the news. Be very, very selective of what you see on social media or delete it. Um, find what gives you hope and watch that and do that. But oftentimes I feel like a lot of people are very stuck in delusional fantasies. And that is not okay either. That is an escape. So we're desperate and we feel this sense of despair that it's never going to get better. The world is never going to make sense. We're doomed. That's an act of, that's a feeling of despair. The other side of that coin is having delusional fantasies that everything's perfect, and if you say these certain prayers, everything's going to happen the way you want it to. And I say expect miracles, but I also tell you they're not always going to happen, and they're not always going to be the way you want them to be. Miracles actually are challenges. So, but like I said, there's just a lot of, and there was a huge part of me for many, many years that is how I escaped my trauma, is by having delusional fantasies. I was going to be a millionaire. I was going to be on stages. I was going to, write books and heal the world. Like, there was always a delusional fantasy that I clung to. That was unhealthy. When you heal and you really start to tune into that energy as though it's a divine truth, that is no longer a delusional fantasy. That could literally be your divine destiny. You know the difference because you don't need it in order to be happy. I don't fucking care if I make millions of dollars. I don't care if I'm ever on a stage. I the most important thing to me is God. Like, my connection to God, doing God's work. That is the most important thing to me. If that is what God wants me to do in order to heal people, that is what will be done. Um, but I don't need it. Whereas before, I was always tuned into that fantasy. I just have to move my legs again. And there was such an attachment that I had to make it happen, and it had to happen because I felt so worthless all the time. So what happens when you heal these core wounds that you feel worthless, you start to see your value. And when I talk about value, I mean, you're a really good person. You're an amazing person. You're a great mom. You're an honest, loving, kind, giving person. That is value. And when that is true, people will pay you for your work, and God will pay you for your work. And so you will have abundance financially. But it's when you don't need it. When financial abundance is the most important thing to you, you're not going to get it. And if you do get it, um it's going to ruin your life. Like, had I had financial success at any point in my life other than now, it would have ruined me because I was always working to prove something to someone else. Um, and now I love myself enough and I have such a strong connection with the divine that if they want me to give the money away, I will give the money away. If they want me to keep it, I will keep it. I have so many plans. I have very few plans of what I would do if I made millions of dollars for myself, but I have a shit ton of plans of what I would do for other people. I know what I would want to do for cancer patients. I would want to make sure that they get their lawns mowed. I would want to make sure that they have meals in their fridges. I would want to make sure that they have their snow shoveled and rides to Saskatoon, support, love. Um, that is what would do if I had millions of dollars. I'm a very, very generous person. No, I wouldn't say I always have been. I have been for the last many years. So let's really sit with this and what our value is in this world, and really tune into, what do you really want your legacy to be? What do you want people to say about you? My mom died, it was 2022 that she died. And man, my mom was such a generous person. I want people to say that about me. She was a loving person. She was a kind person. She had the best laugh in the world. She said the craziest fucking funny curse words at the craziest of times. That is what I remember about my mom. Um, so that's the question. What do you want people to remember about you? And now step into that person. That's what we're here to do, is become that version of you. And every time I sit down, I'm a new version of me. And every time you do this work, you're going to be a new version of you. So I invite you to place your hand on your heart. Take some nice, full, deep breaths. And feel every breath moving into and out of your lungs. And feel yourself grounding in your body. Feel yourself getting to this space between your thoughts, where love lives, where truth speaks, where peace flows, where joy dances. And sit here and feel those emotions that show up. And notice those thoughts that show up. And recognize that they're talking about your worth. What did you learn? What did you see? How did your parents treat themselves? How did your parents treat one another? How were you treated? Those are really, really good places to start to see what you believe about your worth and how valuable you believe you are. And again, it's all about repetition and influence. Like, how influential were the people around you? And how did you repetitively see people stepping into their value? Were they generous? Were they loving? Were they kind? Were they excited to connect to God and work for God? Were you taught to be honest and loving? And if not, that's holding you back. And so sit with that and and connect to the divine truth, or any version of God that works for you right now. And just talk to that version about your value and what you saw growing up, and through maybe your marriage or marriages or school, through your businesses, financial situations. Like, what was your experience about value and worth? And really sit and allow yourself to feel held by God, the mother and the father holding you, and hear them tell you how valuable you are, because you are so honest, because you are so generous, because you are so loving, because you care about other people. But it's not you don't have to care about other people first. You want to care about yourself first, but not in a selfish way. In a way that you pour from an overfilling cup. But you start by overfilling your cup with love and encouragement. You encourage yourself. You feel encouraged by God. You hold yourself by being in the moment. You're held by God. You accept yourself by being this incredible, authentic, loving, vulnerable version of you. You feel God accepting you. You love yourself and you are loved by God. That is how you heal. Because what happens when you feel the love from God, the encouragement, the acceptance, the love from God, those stories that are telling you that you're worthless in any way, shape, or form lose hold on you. It's a process. But every time you feel, I'm just looking at what this is actually. Oh, this is grief because we're not letting the past go. Okay, so anytime you feel like you're hanging on to something from the past, what you get to do is surrender to that and let it go. And that's when you begin to feel free. It's not about forgiveness, it's about surrender. Surrendering everything to the divine. Let go and let God is one of the most beautiful things that has ever been said. Let go and let God. And don't, don't limit yourself by um trying to create miracles. You don't create miracles. You expect God to place them in your life, but in a loving way where you are so open to receive because you are so giving. And it's not an expectation that God does it in a certain way or at a certain time. It's this beautiful, loving, giving and receiving, like reciprocating relationship that you form with God, where you give thanks for what you have and how you've been blessed. But you also don't feel afraid of asking. You can ask for what you want, but in a beautiful way. Like, I speak to the divine as though it's really a person. And it's mother and father, or it's the divine feminine or the divine masculine, whatever it is at that time. I have real conversations. Like, I speak and I hear. Um, and I feel like that is reprogramming our nervous system to, it's like tuning into a new energy of parents. No matter how great your parents were on earth, they're still not going to be giving us the unconditional love that the divine will. It's very hard to be unconditional love on the planet. It definitely is. But when you connect to the Divine Mother and Divine Father, you begin to experience divine love. God is unconditional love, always and in all ways, but it's according to your mind and how open your heart is. I don't think I said that properly, but depending on how open your mind and your heart are, is how the love will be flowing in. So it's always unconditional. It's us that is limiting it. And it's our belief systems and our fears and our needs to, to be a certain way or whatever it is. That is what limits the love that we receive from the divine. It's not God limiting it, it's us. And that's what we're here to do together. Every time I sit down and do a podcast or a video, like I said, or an event or healing circles, this is what we're going to do, is to open those channels so that you can connect to the love that God is, to the truth, to the abundance, um to the acceptance and the encouragement and everything that it is. So that is this is what we're going to continue to do. So I encourage you to place your hand on your heart once again. Take in some nice, full, deep breaths. Be here in this moment and connect, align with the divine. Align with the love, the joy, the peace, and the truth. And really, truly listen. Listen for guidance. And then do what it tells you to do. It may want you to rest. It may want you to play. It may want you to create. It might want you to go to the gym. It might want you to go for a walk. Whatever that is, do that. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I love you, and I will talk to you soon. Have have a great day.